Hello and good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We realize you have lots of options and lots of business to tend to, so we certainly appreciate you carving a little bit of time out to spend with Inflow Communications today. Today's a fun topic, and oh, I have a typo right there. This is an annual review and summary of what's to expect and what's happening in the contact center industry. And today we're going to be talking about contact center trends and getting ahead of 2021. As usual, you know that we are dedicated to education and ongoing information to our customers and non-customers. And we have another webinar coming later this week on the 17th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that will be enabling always connected workforce using Zoom phone. Now, the industry is changing quite rapidly, and we're seeing quite a dedication to UCaaS and CCaaS, and more importantly, combining those two worlds together into single unified options. And so this will be a good one to attend if you're interested in things such as Teams, RingCentral, and Zoom Phone. Hang out for our session later this week, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that would be with Zoom Phone. Now, let's see, let's move that slide forward. As usual, if there are any items of interest that you'd like to discuss in further detail that we can't address on our discussion today, feel free to reach out to us at the following toll-free number or send an email to contact@inflowcommunications.com. Luis, who you'll meet here in just a moment, who is the moderator of these sessions, or at least works with me in moderating these sessions, will forward the email to me, and it's a pro bono option. I'm happy to speak with customers and non-customers alike. I've spent anywhere from 15 minutes to 2.5 hours or 3 hours, depending on your specific needs. I take the approach that oftentimes throughout my history of 25 plus years, I had to learn things the hard way. And if we can share knowledge and information to help get you to where you need to go faster, I'm happy to do that. That being said, my name is Chris Riccio. I'm part of the Inflow Communications team here, and I'll introduce you to Luis in a moment. I'm the Director of Contact Center and Advanced Applications. I basically live and breathe contact center and any applications associated or linked to contact center, including advanced applications, custom development, etc. Been doing this for quite a long time, and it's something I really enjoy, and what I enjoy most is really helping clients create a migration path or accelerate their knowledge so they can be contact center experts and professionals as well. And working alongside with me today is Luis Salceda, who will be our administrator, and I'll stop throughout the presentation at least once or twice to see if we have any pending questions. So Luis, thank you for being here and for supporting me as always. And if you'd like to say hello, now is your chance.
Thanks, Chris. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoy today's webinar.
Thanks, Luis. And for those of you that haven't known Luis's role, he's a sales project coordinator. He does a lot of work supporting our organization on the backside. So as always, Luis, thank you so much for your hard work and your efforts. Now, our agenda today is fairly short and succinct. If you have been to previous sessions or attended several sessions throughout the year, we do a contact center overview at least once a month, and this is our agenda for today. Introductions, kind of giving you a quick brief overview of who Inflow Communications is, at least for those of you that have not joined a webinar session before. Then we're going to get right into the topic at hand, contact center trends for 2021. While there is a lot going on in the contact center, I'm really going to be focused on operational value and products and services, or at least what's happening throughout the industry and the most critical aspects of what's happening in a contact center. Obviously, contact center is a very deep and wide subject, so I'm just going to be covering the top essential items that I see trending in the contact center space, and then we'll end up with a summary and give you an opportunity to ask any questions. So for those of you that are not familiar with Inflow Communications, let me give you a quick overview of who we are. That was an interesting word, a quick overview of who we are. Our sole focus is on unified communications and contact center solutions. We do not spend an inordinate amount of time looking at hardware and trying to sell you everything under the sun. We're flatly focused on our craft of bringing the best unified communications and contact center solutions to our clients. We are a ShoreTel Mitel Platinum partner. We also are a partner with the RingCentral, and we are a Genesys Cloud Gold partner, with top tier partner, and we're the most performing new partner over the last 5 years with Genesys to date. We have offices in the states across the U.S. with over 200,000 endpoints and 800 customers that have a international and national footprint. If I can say anything about Inflow Communications, and hopefully this has been your experience if you have encountered Inflow Communications, that we are maniacal about customer experience. While we focus on unified communications and contact center and understanding those technologies to bring the best to our clients, ultimately we are nothing without our ability to perform. And so customer experience is absolutely what we focus on, and we hope that your experience with us, at no matter what level, has been nothing short of exceptional. If you haven't had that experience, again, reach out to us. We're happy to have a discussion with you, and we always strive for excellence. Now, some of our customers here that you may recognize, we've got Domino's, Zillow, who seems to be growing at a clip, and you're seeing them on HGTV all over the place these days, which is fun to watch. ThyssenKrupp, elevator manufacturers and supports across the globe, with operations in Brazil, Germany, and across the US. And then, of course, Driscoll's, the finest berries. Those are some of our clients. So let's get into today's topic of discussion, contact center trends, getting ahead of 2021. Now, I use the term trends very loosely. Trends to me seems sort of like a pop culture type of thing, but I'm talking about the trends in the contact center, where the industry is headed, less of a trend, but more of a reality in where the ifing and changing. And today I'm going to talk about some of the key products or services that you might be looking at to bolster your contact center expertise, but also some of the things that we don't really talk about is the impact of technologies and how that's transforming our thought processes in managing the contact center. Hopefully I'll offer you some insight and some flexible options here that'll help you rethink your strategy for managing your contact center. So let's start with the buzzword and the topic I've spent a lot of time in recently, and no doubt you're hearing more and more about bots and artificial intelligence. It seems you can't go anywhere today without hearing the term artificial intelligence. Now, what I want to state specifically before we get into this, the whole goal of bots and artificial intelligence is not to replace your agents. That will never happen. And there's always going to be a need for the human touch and elements. However, that being said, bots and artificial intelligence are playing a significant part in our ability to perform and service our customers. So when it comes to bots and artificial intelligence, let's talk about the need and the goal. Obviously, with any business venture, your goal is growth. Growth creates demand, and customers want accessibility to support, to knowledge and information about your support and services, and oftentimes that intersects with self-service options. Myself being a technologist and having, as most people do, quite a bit of services that you depend upon, my de facto is to always use a self-service option first. I will use the need to speak with a representative as my last option, and we're going to talk about the impact of the contact center in that sort of structure. Now, the obstacle for most folks when you're talking about growth and demand, because as you grow, you get more clients, which is more revenue, which is a good thing. The challenging issue and critical issue, and if you've been in contact center long enough, this is the number one issue impacting every contact center is staffing and headcount. Finding enough staff to meet the demands of your clients. And this is where technology is playing a significant and substantial part in the contact center operation. The answer is bots with machine learning and artificial intelligence. Now, I know that bots have sort of a negative connotation, and early strategies for automation were cumbersome and clumsy and more than anything frustrating. However, today technology has changed so dramatically that the difference between a bot and a human is almost unseen. I say almost because, you know, we can tell the difference. However, where bots factor into any contact center operation, I do mean any business, is high volume, low complexity transactions. These are transactions that are easily supported through a bot, and they easily support easy self-service options. Think along the lines of order status, appointment scheduling, booking travel, rescheduling appointments, those sorts of things. For tech support, it could be resetting a password, unlocking an account. Every contact center has a high volume of transactions that have low complexity. These are the ones that are ideal and really geared towards artificial intelligence and bots, and it gives you quite a tremendous advantage. One of the things I recommend to anyone in the contact center is take a look at your contact center activities today. And if you're not using wrap codes, use wrap codes and dispositions to decipher what sort of payload or weight do we have with high volume, low complexity transactions, and see if you can create a strategy geared towards that. Whether you use IVR, but more specifically, I'm talking about bots and artificial intelligence. Now, another way that bots and artificial intelligence are helping the landscape in the contact center is with low volume, high complexity transactions. Now, in this case, we're not talking about full service automation. We're talking about triaging and doing upfront data gathering, collecting critical information that otherwise would require an agent to spend a significant amount of time with a client or a caller or someone doing a text message or web chat. When you have high complexity transactions, this is also a great way to use a bot to gather information to help make decisions about triaging the calls so it gets to the most appropriate individual. I recently had an issue with my internet provider. When I contacted them, they ask you a series of questions so they can get you to the right party. One of the rules I always say is make sure that doesn't go any deeper than 3 questions, because that's where the frustration level comes in. But that's where that's a great use case for using bots, is to triage and data gather before routing the interaction to a knowledgeable person. The next piece is knowledge bots. Think of this as a digital frequently asked questions. This is a great resource where you can ask the bot, if you're using voice bot, for information. This is a great way to expand the capabilities of self-service without losing touch with the customer experience. Now, how you use these is really largely going to depend upon the solution you have and putting them together, but this is how bots and artificial intelligence is changing the structure of your contact center, especially since we're tasked with growth and demands, which ultimately leads to, hey, I got to have more staff. This is likely a great gateway to take you to the next level. Next up, in the contact center trends, and what I've seen a lot of uptick in, is voice analytics. And if this isn't something that you're familiar with, hopefully this will give you enough information to pique your interest, and we definitely can have a sidebar discussion about voice analytics. But voice analytics is the application that has gained a tremendous amount of acceleration. And really, when we talk about voice analytics, the need and the goal for the contact center, when we break it down to what's happening from a trend perspective in contact center, is that customer experience is paramount and key to creating brand loyalty so that your clients will want to continue doing business with you. Customer experience, there's so much that goes into that. And one of the hardest things to do is gain feedback from your customer. If you're doing things such as after call surveys or after interaction surveys, whether it's a phone call, which nobody answers anymore, text message, which you're likely going to respond to email, being able to assess your customer's experience and get feedback is critical to creating and developing your brand. Also, when you're thinking about compliance, there are many industries where compliance is absolutely a mandate. And then also quality assurance. Quality assurance is tracking what your agents are doing, their level of expertise and knowledge and ability to finesse customers regardless of their customer temperament. That's the need and the goal. And because of the focus on ease of use, ease of doing business with your brand, customer experience is critical. Now, the obstacle in trying to bring all the tool set together in the applications that you might use in assessing the customer experience in QA is you don't have enough time. Often you don't have enough staff to do the work. If you're not an organization that's fortunate enough to have dedicated QA analysts whose sole job is to listen to recordings and analyze conversations, that you may be missing out on quite a heavy amount of information that could be beneficial to your organization. The other obstacle is that without enough time, you're likely setting up your QA statistical information or even your feedback loop for your customer. You're probably getting a fraction of exposure, meaning that you're probably getting less than 3%, maybe 5 to 8% of feedback. But oftentimes you don't have enough time to listen to all the conversations. And when I look at contact center and QA analysts, most folks are doing 3 to 5 recordings per representative. And when the contact center gets busy, that's the first piece of the puzzle that falls off the radar. The answer really is voice analytics. As demand increases, you have more interactions, more activities, we have a more of a persistent need to really focus on customer experience and QA assessments. What I always say is that when your contact center is placed under heavy demands, you actually should be more critically focused to the QA and the customer experience, because it's when your system is tested is that that when things tend to break, and this is where you should be really focused on so you don't lose sight of that. Voice analytics brings several things to the table. Number one, it allows you to listen to 100% of conversations. Now I'm talking about voice conversations, but you also have the ability to look at contextual information in terms of client interactions via text, via email, and web chat, and that may change from provider to provider when you're looking at voice analytics applications, so check that out. But voice analytics gives you nothing more, I want to say nothing more, but 100% of conversations dissecting for content, context, and most importantly, sentiment. Ultimately, the translation is what is being said and how is it being said. That's the critical piece of the equation here. And perception is everything. And there is a gentleman that I listen to and follow his blogs, Thomas Laird, Laird. You can find him on LinkedIn. He has a great book about contact center. He calls himself a contact center geek. But the one thing that I agree with 100% that he has said is that the tone is the message. And voice analytics does a great job of giving us sentiment because it's looking at tone, it's looking at keywords, etc. Also, when it comes to feedback loop, getting feedback from your clients, you're lucky if you get 5 to 8% feedback. I said 3%, but I'm going to say 5 to 8% feedback of those folks that will respond. But having insight to your customer thoughts and requests could be a game changer for your contact center. When I think about voice analytics, what does that bring to my contact center? It tells me what my customers are asking for. It tells me about their experience, what they're experiencing while they're interacting with the contact center, or what they're seeking. Why do clients reach out to your contact center? Voice analytics can catalog this information and give you the most used words of the day, of the week. This gives you the ability to look at information in a dashboard view so you can get ahead of the strategy. For example, if you see all of a sudden a lot of questions being asked about your latest offer that marketing has sent out, this may be a great way for you to say, well, let's get ahead of that. Let's put some proactive information out front so we can mitigate some of the questions and confusion. The last piece is you get 100% automation of QA processing. As I said before, if you're a contact center, let's say with even just 10 representatives and you have an operation that runs 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, or heck, 7 days a week, there's no way you're going to listen to every single conversation. So you're only getting a skewed view of what's really happening within the contact center and customer experience. But with voice analytics, you will get 100% Q automation with what is said, as including what is not said. And I state that specifically when you're talking about compliance-based industries where you have legal Mirandas that must be stated, or you must qualify the caller and identify them before you release information. And then you're getting information about agent performance and efficiency and agent knowledge. Voice analytics pays for itself in a short period of time, but it gives you a much more spot-on focused approach to assessing customer experience and agent aptitude. One of the tools that I prefer for voice analytics is called Journey. And if you were on our session over the last few months, this is just a quick hit on voice analytics. And this can kind of apply to most voice analytics applications. Call Journey is just one that I find which is the easiest to understand, the easiest to digest, and more importantly, easiest to adopt. So how does it work? Voice analytics takes your audio sources, runs them through an interaction engine, which is basically doing text-to-speech analysis, converting everything into data. Call Journey specifically uses emotive voice streams, and it's going to give you conversational transcription. Everyone's doing voice transcription these days. It's going to give you words and gender, sentiment and emotion, and any data associated with the conversation or the call activity or interaction activity. This is really critical information because sentiment analysis is really big, and if we can take sentiment analysis and in real time proactively engage other resources if there's a heated dialogue or some questionable dialogue going on, this is where voice analytics is headed, and it's a tool worth checking out. The result will be a dashboard delivered, the data delivered to a dashboard with key information so that you don't have to search out details. It's basically there in a visible dashboard. Most people in the contact center space today use dashboards, and this would be something very familiar to you. And ultimately, that data is then used for other applications. And we're going to talk about data in a moment because it's one of my favorite topics in the contact center perspective. I've been talking about data for years and years and years, and it's really great to see how it's really changing strategies and your forward plan. Now, analytics is a big deal. Most of the applications that have voice analytics allow you to export that information into usable tools that you're probably using today, such as Microsoft Power BI, Tableau, etc. Now, that leads us to our next topic, which is a great segue and leader into data and business intelligence. Now, data in the contact center is no longer relegated just to contact center metrics. Yes, talk time is important, but it's no longer we should shorten talk time. It's about the quality of the conversation. However, there are metrics that are pointers to the health of our organization, and they can be used for strategic purposes. But we're also seeing many folks are migrating that data into their business intelligence information separate and apart from the contact center, which gives them more business driving data, such as, well, we'll get into that in a moment. So the need and the goal for most contact centers and where everyone is headed, if you're not there already, is access to all data, every bit of information, and it goes in two directions. A system that has access to client-facing data, but contact center data can easily be exported out to a business intelligence application or any sort of database structure where you're analyzing information, including outcome data. What was the result of the conversation? What was the experience? And we can gauge the experience through standard metrics, through contact center, but that is changing. The obstacle for most contact center solutions, or for folks that do the analysis, and I'm seeing a lot more business analysis folks being hired to merge this data. The obstacle for most folks is cumbersome data extraction processes for the contact center, if you can get that far, and the lack of integration options. Today, and you've heard me say this before, we're in the 21st century. It's 2020. I should be able to point and click to any integration in the open free world within reason. I shouldn't have to go through a heavy development process to access data. And thankfully, the message has been loud and clear, and people are reading the writing on the wall that if you want to be relevant in the contact center space, you need to make accessibility to data just a point and click option. The answer to all of this is really free access to contact center data with easy export options. Absent that, it should be an open API to extract information, and that works in two ways, to and from applications. Folks these days are using data, and I've been a fan and a proponent of using data for personalizing the customer experience at all levels. Not just recognizing your customer by name, but recognizing that they may be a VIP client versus a platinum support client versus a new client. Those bits of data can transform everything about the interaction, how you treat the interaction, what priorities you give the interaction, and what messages or dialogue is actually played to the caller. Think of it this way. With data, you no longer are creating a cookie cutter contact center flow process. You can use data to make every single interaction different, completely driven by the data we find about that customer, prospect, anything available to us. Now, with that in mind, this past year, I've spent quite a bit of time talking about customer engagement. Many contact center users understand the value of data and couple it with their business data and use the data to drive proactive customer engagements. Things such as, yes, marketing is the easy answer, sell something new, but there's a whole other slant to that. Appointment reminders, yes, that's a de facto one, but what about keeping clients aware of changes in your organization, aware of changes in policies, or aware of things that may be adjacent services to their service? What's the latest update in compliance parameters, things of that nature. Anytime you can educate your client proactively, you create a tighter bond for loyalty. Quite frankly, I tend to stick with service providers that are always keeping me aware of what's happening because, you know, in our busy lives, chasing data and chasing information becomes a full-time job. If you have a service provider that is actually proactive in that effort, it can be a game changer in terms of your brand and your connection in creating close personal relationships with your customers. And lastly, combining data, contact center with business-centric data is critical. This would be What are our outcomes based on campaigns? What are clients asking for? And we can turn that into educational, proactive educational information, whether it's through a webinar, whether it's through a blog or a newsletter. There's so many ways that you can couple this information. Think about contact center data with business-centric information to track things for propensity to buy. For example, you have clients that are easily teased with a discount or some sort of special offering, and the more you recognize those folks, the more often you can entice them with other opportunities, basically buying into your brand, not financially, but just from a service point of view. So data and business intelligence is certainly driving the contact center. Now, let's talk about cloud migration. On everyone's mind this year, certainly given the pandemic and what has happened in 2020. The clients that I have worked with that are thriving are during our very unusual circumstances of the last 9 months are those that had a predisposition to cloud-based technologies or had already taken the migration over to cloud. But we're going to see an uptick in cloud migration, more importantly, especially with the impact of 2020. The need and the goal really is twofold. Number one, keeping pace with technology, of course. We want the latest and greatest technology. And for folks that have a premise-based solution, that means buying a new solution on a regular basis. But more importantly, if we haven't learned anything in 2020, is sustainability, the ability to withstand a heavy burden or disaster such as the pandemic we experienced in 2020. And adding to that, having enterprise level features and options. The obstacle is that with premise-based solutions, you typically will have disparate or multiple systems tethered together to create a unified solution. And the obstacle became, once I have a premise-based solution, how do I create remote accessibility and supportability so that I can have a remote workforce? The answer really is hands down a cloud-based contact center solution or technology. Now, adding to the issues we dealt with in 2020, operational survivability was the number one goal. Remote workforce sustainability and having folks be able to work from any location in the free world was a game changer. And I think that folks that had put cloud technology off to the sidebar understand now that the impact of cloud technology does for the business in terms of supporting long-term supportability, but operational survivability, but giving your clients another way to access to you in an easy manner, and also supporting remote workforce. Cloud-based technology offers enterprise-level features and the latest technology as an all-in-one option or solution. One of the critical things that we've learned that while everyone's working remotely, yes, the phone call is important, but what about texting? What about other communication channels? As more and more people were staying home, the accessibility to your service became much more dynamic in that having one channel of communication was a detriment to the client, but also to your operation. The greatest advantage that you have in maintaining a cloud-based solution is that you have the latest and greatest technology. The technology is constantly evolving, so you're never buying that solution again, but you are paying a subscription cost for that. Oftentimes it can be a pay-as-you-go, month-to-month, but there are benefits for doing multi-year contracts. It's something that can't be easily discounted given our certain current circumstances, especially as we finalize 2020. And ultimately, it's about unrestricted operational access, always available customer options. Think about contact center technology and the business in general. Contact center is no longer an 8 to 5, 9 to 5 proposition. It's no longer a a 2-shift proposition, first shift and swing shift. It's a 24/7 proposition these days. And with the demand for automation and accessibility, this is where bots come into play. This is where automation and technology that's easily accessible. There are clients, and I do it myself, that I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I want to conduct business just because it happens to be convenient. That's, in my opinion, what has changed about technology and contact center. So cloud migration will continue to be at the forefront of everyone's thoughts. And ultimately, when we talk about cloud-based technologies and we talk about bots and where technologies and automation are, one of the things that I don't think enough attention is paid to is that agent expertise, agent efficiency and brand consistency. When your user or your customer finally needs to reach out to a human, I want it to be a pleasant experience. And so what is changing is the demands on agent expertise. The need and the goal is that agent efficiency, agent knowledge, and agent expertise has to be there, and it has to be completely friendly. I think people make decisions based on the experience they have with a representative once they finally reach out to somebody. Because think of it this way, because automation is pervasive, and this is, we're talking about the impact now. Automation is pervasive, and automation allows customers to take the first pass at self-service. Nowadays, everyone uses Google, or they pop onto a website. They go look and seek information first. But when the time comes where I have to reach out or opt in to speak to an agent, expectations are extremely high. Expectations are, I want to speak to somebody knowledgeable who understands my problem. They should be empathetic and friendly, all the while. It's just sort of the compounded nature that we're in. The answer really is at the segue of advanced QA. We talked about voice analytics and QA, but we really need to spend particular focus on agent efficiency. So doing QA for the perspective of understanding what's our knowledge of our representatives, but also advanced technologies for customer experience. What are the tools, assessment tools that are out there? Yes, there's after-call surveys, there's offline surveys, there's cursory third-party surveys, but there's also voice analytics. All of this is sort of creating this interesting loop. And another byproduct of contact center technologies and the demand on customers is that agents need communication tools that are already embedded into the application. You think about applications such as Slack, such as Glip with RingCentral. Most every contact center solution now has an inter-office communication tool. Think about Teams. I haven't talked about Teams. That's certainly out there, but Teams, one of the foundations, that quick, efficient communication. And we're talking about customer efficiency. If I don't have an answer, placing a customer on hold is seen as a negative experience. So I need communication tools off to the side that I can do a quick reach out. Hey, I have an escalated customer here, or they're asking a question I don't quite understand. I need to be able to finesse that dialogue on the side. Agents are often the last resort to many conversations. I know for myself, I will always use automation and applications first. I will avoid calling a contact center just because my time is valuable. If I can get to it faster, quicker, I'm much happier. But when I do need the assistance of a personnel or an agent, I do expect them to be knowledgeable and friendly, and I do expect a high level of return. Inter-office communication tools are becoming de facto mandatory. Placing customers on hold, as I said, is a negative experience. Nowadays, most folks that I work with in the contact center, part of their QA assessment is, did I put the customer on hold? And if I must put the customer on hold, did I ask for permission to do so? And when I came back to the call, am I thanking them for the permission to do so? We're in a very customer service time frame now. Everything is really dedicated to brand consistency and ease of use. And ultimately, our biggest obstacle to this is time, and supervisor staff is limited. We don't have 10 or even 2 QA analysts that do nothing but listen to conversations. So automation and technology is helping us get there. We have a need for more advanced and automated QA tools, and they're no longer optional. In order for us to keep pace with the thousands of calls, and I spoke to a contact center that takes over 200,000 calls in a month. So if you think your contact center is busy, think about when you start scaling. You've got to bring other tools to the table. And the trade-off is, it gives you more immediate returns, and you can then develop strategies much quicker. Now, my last discussion point here is social media. Now, a lot of folks talk about social media. It's a persistent constant. It's out there. I do have my opinions on social media, and I'll tell them in a moment. The need and the goal really is to prepare for social media. Customer access for communication is everywhere, especially in international markets. ease of use and accessibility, and just the preferred model for your customers. It is one of the things that people look for. If I'm going to communicate with a company, do they have all the available options to me? And how likely am I to go to a different company if I don't have an application that I want to use or prefer to use? The impact is that omni-channel contact center must include social media. If you're not using it today, it should be something that you can easily adapt to without having to buy an entire new solution in order to plug it in. And that's sort of where I see the industry going, is that most contact center solutions these days, rather than having to buy a bolt-on app, you're now using plugins. For you tech heads who have known about uh, content systems for websites such as Joomla and WordPress, it's all based on plugins. The answer really is, for your contact center, is one of two. Have an open API, or seek contact center solutions that have easy access with open API plugins such as web services plugins, or they come ready to install social media channels. Now, here's what I say about social media. So getting a little bit off of into my opinions. I do think that social media represents a lot of noise to the contact center, because there's so much dialogue and back and forth quips and things that may not be relevant to the bigger picture. And it takes a lot of know-how or staff to filter through what I call the noise. Now, I'm using the term loosely. You know, you have folks that live and breathe on Yelp. They sustain their business on Yelp reviews. Amazon, almost every retail portal has a review mechanism. So it does represent a lot of noise to me. So getting through that, I don't know if it's necessarily something that most people are diving into now, but you should be aware of it and should have a plan for it. Now, where I am seeing a tremendous amount of inquiry and uptick is with WhatsApp. WhatsApp is at the top of international markets. All of my customers who are in Europe or have a European footprint or in South America are looking specifically for WhatsApp integration. It provides customers in those areas easy options to avoid costly calls, and it's just a preferred method of communication. So that's my slant on social media. I do think WhatsApp is getting a lot of traction. Facebook and Twitter, a little less, but you do have some clients that are going to jump onto that because that's the nature of their business. That's where they drive leads. So that's what I'm seeing in the marketplace. I don't see a lot of adoption in that regard, but WhatsApp is at the top of that list. At minimum, if you're seeking a contact center solution and planning for the future, look for something that should support multimedia or has open API systems that allow you to easily plug in social media channels into your ACD environment, your contact center environment. And that sort of takes us to the end of our overview here. Obviously, there's so much more that we can talk about in the context of contact center, but by way of summary, this is what I'm seeing as the most pervasive processes impacting contact centers today. Number one, cloud migration is at the top of the list for all the things that we've mentioned. You have accessibility to state-of-the-art technology, and let's face it, the small business, in order to compete in the big business world, needs enterprise-level tools. And this is a game changer for the small and mid-sized market to have accessibility to tools generally found only at the enterprise level where people have millions of dollars. So cloud migration is a smart move. Cloud migration also gives us automation and self-service options. And right now, bots and artificial intelligence is really leading the pack in terms of a gateway for clients to really expand their services. Now, is there a lot of folks throwing automation? I won't say the uptick is huge, but I will tell you lots of folks such as healthcare are paying attention to automation and using bots and artificial intelligence to help give them more accessibility to their customers. Because of automation and the free accessibility of information, hopefully you have free accessibility information. When a customer opts into agent, um, agent efficiency is critical for customer perception and customer loyalty. So it's sort of changing the dynamic and focus for your contact center is that a renewed focus on agent proficiency and friendliness and really understanding the landscape and working with clients is critical. And lastly, providing customer engagement is essential. Proactive customer engagement, reaching out to your clients before there is a need. If I can't say anything more than this, is that proactive outreach keeps a personal relationship. It shows and demonstrates that you're interested in your customers' experience with your organization and brand. Now, that being said, if there are any questions today, um, feel free to reach out to us at the following phone number. or send an email to contact@inflowcommunications.com. Luis does a great job of sending those forward to me. If you have anything even off topic, if you'd like to go into something that I haven't covered today, I'm happy to help at any level. Just reach out and we can set up a conversation. And I want to stop here and see if there are any questions that have popped up through the course of the discussion today. Luis?
No, I don't see any.
Okay, I didn't suspect there would be. It's sort of a cursory overview of what's happening. So good luck on your planning for 2021. There's plenty more to come. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. The contact center wars have officially started with the transition to so many applications and solutions and folks jumping into the billion-dollar contact center industry. And so you're in a really good place right now. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate you. And I appreciate any of you folks who have viewed any of the sessions throughout the year, and we look forward to the coming year and stay tuned for more. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.